In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The County Commission on the Federal Task Force, borrowing and spending, schools, and much more. Tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by three members of the County Commission. They include Amber Mills, County Commissioner for District 1, including Arlington, Millington, North Unincorporated County. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
Charlie Caswell is County Commissioner for District 6, including some of unincorporated North Shelby County, Raleigh, and Nutbush. Thanks for being here. All right. Mick Wright, County Commissioner for District 3, including Bartlett and Lakeland. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Bill Dries is a reporter with the Daily Memphian. Thank you all for being here. I should say, since we're going to talk about the federal task force, this is Thursday morning as we record this, and just kind of a lay of the land right now, and every day is a new day, and there's talk that more of the Guard, or the Guard will be more publicly deployed as of the time this airs on Friday. But right now, the updates are that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is set up to 1,000 Guard, could be here for more than a year or as much as a year. Some are here. It's a little murky of who's here. Maybe some people, commanders, will know more as every day goes forward. There are roughly 700 federal law enforcement agents that have been here, as many as almost 900 over the last week at various points. U.S. Marshals, ATF, Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms, FBI, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, plus a whole lot more Tennessee Highway Patrol, it seems. A number of arrests. We're not going to go deep on every part of this, but I just want to get a lay of the land of where we are Thursday morning. Bill, what did I miss in terms of just kind of orienting to this discussion?
A lot of questions still about how this works among the different agencies, local, state, and federal, but that seems to be moving forward with some kind of plan for the presence here.
I'm going to just get your guys' take. So I'm going to start with you, Amber. Your take on, is this a good thing, bad thing? What do you want to see? What do you not want to see from this federal presence?
I think it's wonderful. I was excited to hear that we were getting the help from the federal government and that Governor Lee was stepping in and helping as well. I know when I talk to our law enforcement now, they are so happy to have the reinforcement and the support. You look at where we were, even in our last term, you had resolutions to defund the police and just this against law enforcement. So to now have the help and the support that they need to do their job, I think it's all wonderful, and I think the citizens are happy with it too. Somebody the other day said, it feels different. I was like, this is what civilized society is supposed to be, and this is not what we've had or lately.
Yeah. Commissioner has thoughts on this, good, bad, what you want to see, what you don't want to see?
So I think I'm on both sides in part, right? So coming from one of the most violent precincts in our community, Fraser, Raleigh, and seeing the crime for many years, growing up in that community, I'm most definitely receptive to the help that's there. To see families get these crimes solved, I believe is most definitely something we needed. On the other hand, when I look at it, when we talk about resources, I know it goes deeper, right? It's the poverty that I've seen for 20, 30 years living in that community. It's the disinvestment in that community around education, to see kids going to school without the proper books, to see that we had trauma but no mental health and no other social supports that are there. I think that we have to invest there at the root cause while at the same time addressing what's on the table, and that's the violent criminals that's in our community that we got to get out of our community.
Commissioner Wright, your thoughts? And also, you also, outside of being a commissioner, you work at youth villages, you work with Memphis Allies, the Violence Intervention Group. So maybe first as a commissioner and what you hear from your constituents and so on, and then maybe what you see as somebody who works in these spaces on a regular basis.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is we're seeing a big impact. It's a big change in Memphis and Shelby County. Just coming in today, I saw multiple officers out on the street making stops, and you just get a sense of better safety and that that finally there are some consequences to that behavior. And I think that's the piece that's been missing. So obviously, I'm very focused on prevention and intervention and transformative effort, but you've got to have enforcement measures as well. If there's no consequence, if that piece is missing, the whole system falls apart.
Look, let me say, too, that we have two Republicans. I always forget if we have partisan races and which bodies. We have two Republicans and one Democrat. That is not by design. It's just we'd asked about 7 county commissioners. Not everyone could make it. We'll have other commissioners, other folks on talking about these things. So just to acknowledge that. But let me go ahead and bring in Bill Dries.
So we're still early. The Guard is here, but probably not in the full numbers that we're going to see. But what are your thoughts on what happens after the Guard goes? I mean, is this just temporary, or do you think there is some lasting effect on this? Start with you, Commissioner.
Well, I hope it's some lasting effects. What I seen a couple of weeks ago, I was in D.C., and I've seen some of the National Guards around where they were supporting around the convention center. That allowed the officers to work inside of the community. What I hope is the Sheriff Department and Memphis Police Department take some tactics from this, that they continue to work together on those hot spots in our community where we know there is gang violence, where we know there is drug dealing, that they intentionally work together. I haven't seen that before this happened. We asked for the sheriff to come into the inner city. It was some kind of rule that they was not. They worked unincorporated in municipalities. So hopefully they train them on how to do collaborative policing together alongside FBI and TBI even after they're gone, and the Highway Patrol, who's have been assisting as well. So I'm hoping that's the sustainability outside of any other federal resources that may still be here.
Commissioner Wright, to that point, should there be a federal and state commitment to this beyond this task force?
Well, I'm thankful, I guess, for the surge. I don't think it has to be a permanent presence, but I'm just very appreciative of both the federal and state governments putting in resources. This was the community that needed it. Of all communities, that we had the highest homicide rate in the entire country, and you've got to have a response that meets that need.
Commissioner Mills.
I could say I think it falls on the people to elect in 2026 local electeds that will help law enforcement. We've had a sprinkle of electeds that help law enforcement, but we've had money taken from the sheriff that he should have gotten. So I think it falls on the people of 2026 to elect the right people to continue what the federal government and the state government coming in have started for us.
You're in your second term on the county commission. You know a bit about how politics works and short memories that voters may have. Is what happens next going to be an issue in those county elections?
I hope that people see what it's like to have a leadership come in that does the act, that says what they're going to do, and to fight crime, not just talk about it, but to fight crime so that we can have better lives here, because you're electing your quality of life with who you elect, basically, who's going to set up your environment to live your life in Shelby County. So I think it falls on the people to decide where we go from here with this surge of resources that we've had from the federal and state government.
Commissioner Caswell, you talked about your district and the problem with violent crime there. What do you hear from your constituents? Are they all of one mind on this, or are they split on this?
It's split on this, and I have some positive stories of one police been looking for a suspect for almost 2 months of the multiple killings that happened in Frazier, and through this task force, they just recently caught the one of the last suspects. That put the community at ease because they knew he was in the community, and they knew that if he was out there, something else could have happened. So they're excited about those type of things. Then on the other side, when you talk about some of the pullover for maybe to busted tail light or some things, they feel in part threatened because they don't don't know what's coming out of that. But even in some of those stops, I have heard positive things where the police interacted in a positive way, not in a negative way that it is. So I think that just the ideal of the surge put fear in a lot of the people. But at the same time, I'm thankful to the officers. And actually, one of the guys I'm looking to recognize who helped some police officers who flipped over on Fraser Boulevard and Watkins a week or so ago. Some federal agents was on the chase, and he went out there and helped. And he said in the news report that he wanted them to see there are some good people in Memphis, not just the bad people they heard about before they came here.
And we should point out that was at Fraser and Watkins. And when you talked about flipping, one of the pursuit cars actually flipped over
on top of another individual car. Yeah.
Let me in other cities. Again, we're early into this. Although the guard is, in some ways, the guard. I don't want to say it's a distraction, but it's the real emphasis. It does seem to be is these federal law enforcement agencies who have been in Memphis in gang task force and various initiatives for forever. Other cities, some of the things that have gotten the most criticism have involved ICE. There's now a video of a Black Hawk helicopter and a whole lot of federal agents, a lot of them ICE, rappelling down ropes into a building in Chicago. Other incidents that have been filmed, and they may be but there have been incidents around ICE that people have really focused on and been critical of. Do you all, I'll start with both of you, Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Mills, do you have concerns about any of those kinds of things happening here? Do you have other concerns about where things could go not so well with this intervention?
Well, I would say that you always have to be careful in how you act, and just because you're wearing a badge doesn't necessarily mean you're a person of character. So we have to make sure that there's supervision on all of those forces, make sure that they're following the chain of command. But I think the good structure is in place here. I have a lot of confidence in our city mayor as well as our governor, and I think they're doing the right things to make sure that our officers here treat people with respect, and that's what we need.
Concerns of where things could go badly or not as well as you feel they're going right now?
No, I think these agencies coming in, they know they're under a microscope here locally. And I was disappointed when it was announced that they were coming in, and local leadership just automatically put them in a bad light. Like, we don't want them here, they shouldn't be here, they shouldn't be doing this. Well, when you get the people that broke laws coming in and people who are criminals and came here illegally, well, then you have resources to better serve the people that are citizens here. So I think they are aware they're under a microscope. I think they're going to do, this is what I want to believe, and this is what I believe, they're going to do the best job that they can. I think it's good what they're doing, and I think it's going to help the residents of Shelby County in the long run.
Commissioner Caswell, I'm sure that I'm always struck when we have these conversations, and again, we talked about two Republicans and a Democrat, and that if this were national cable news, there would be certain people just shocked at what you're saying as a Democrat representing a majority black district about your positive aspects of how you view this. And I think back on when the last mayor's race for city mayor, when Paul Young ran, Bill and I did one-on-one interviews at this table with, I think, all 8 of the top candidates. We did multiple debates. And all 8 of those candidates, 7 of whom were Democrats, 7 of whom were black, wanted more police, including the former head of the NAACP, Van Turner, who went out of his way to say, no, I think we need more police officers. And when I talk to people, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much here, but I mean, when I talk to people in other cities and I'm in local news conferences, maybe they're kind of shocked by that. Yeah. They shouldn't be, I think. Right?
No, because I think it goes back to what I said earlier when there was disinvestment of addressing trauma and mental health. I witnessed at 14 and 15 years old, 2 friends killed. I grew up with that. And when you see hurt people, they hurt people. So when you don't address those things, then later in life, you have to deal with the reality of where we are. We are at a place right now that we have to address people that's hurting, that seek to hurt other people. And we have to do it in a way, sometimes it comes through suppression, it comes through prevention, and it comes through intervention. We have to do all 3. And I think that right now we need more police because we don't have community like it should be. Until we can restore community the way that it should be, that's us looking out for each other, then sadly we got to have somebody else to address these individuals.
And we're midway through show here. I'll bring Bill back in.
Are any of you concerned about the rhetoric this past Friday when you had Stephen Miller, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, and Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, and you had Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General, talking about unleashing the police, telling the police, go out there, we're going to let police be police. That struck some people as being very aggressive. How did you take it?
Go ahead.
Well, I took it as it shouldn't have been said that way. You think about this is the city where we just witnessed Tyreek Nichols beat to death, and police officers right now are being released out of jail when you own something that we saw clearly what it was. And so to the black community, I know it put fear in us to say that now you're going to release that and now there's no accountability held there. And to hear the president say that we're going to release military and use it as a training ground, that would do something to us as a community, because we're talking about historical trauma that's now rising up in many people. So it may look different in some community, but in my community, it did release a lot of fear of people not moving because of the trauma that they experienced from watching the beatings, not just Tyreek Nichols, Rodney King, George Floyd, the things that we have seen happen in the black community when it comes to police and being released. So.
What I heard was all the resources you need are here. Go do your job. And I think that was refreshing for our law enforcement to hear, because I know even as an elected, we have to tiptoe around what we say so we don't offend anybody. So we have to be very careful. But there it's like, you need this, you got it. I mean, no matter what the scary equipment is, they haven't had to tiptoe around it. We're going to get the job done. And I think it's totally different than what we've experienced here in Shelby County.
Yeah, I think they were laying out the idea that we are going to have a zero tolerance policy, and that's the kind of thing where you need that reputation that if you do a violent act, you're going to be caught and you're going to be charged, and that's the message that we need to be giving.
But then it extends to a military helicopter doing circles over a protest on Saturday that I was at. What was the purpose of that? I mean, nobody's breaking any laws there. Why does a helicopter circle it 8 times?
They could have been looking at it for a criminal on the run. I mean, it could have been, you talked about them getting the person that they'd been looking for 2 months. They could have gotten word that that person was in the crowd. It could have been totally unrelated to the activists there in the group. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any insight into that. I would just say that does speak to one of the issues that I find frustrating, which is that the county really does not have a seat at the table. Our county mayor has decided to not really collaborate with the task force, and so all we have is maybe our sheriff at the table, but commissioners don't have a seat at the table. The county mayor doesn't seem to, and we're a big part of this issue. We've got all of the justice system is under us. We fund half the DA's office, the public defender, the clerks. So we really need to be considered because it's filling up our courts, our jail, and the county clerk's office.
Well, and I just say that's why I attempted to bring a resolution that say give us some type of information, like how can we be a part of that process before this happened? Because I knew that if we didn't have something on the table to say, again, it was not to say we didn't want to aid all the alphabets to come here. It was some parts to say that the National Guard, I felt like, was not needed if we had these other resources working together on the ground in our community.
Let me say, we could do the whole show on this, and we'll do more other shows on this. And again, if you joined us late, I want to say that we're really glad that these folks are here. We asked about 7 commissioners to be here. These are the folks who could do it kind of last minute, so we'll have other folks on. So there's no, this is who is here, not so much. I know we have 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat and so on. Let's segue, though, and you mentioned this, Commissioner Wright, about the whole funding of a lot of the local criminal justice system. One of those is the jail. That is, are you worried about overcrowding? People there is overcrowding there. There's, I think lots of reporting on really terrible conditions of people who have not been convicted of crimes. Are you worried about that? And then we'll segue into the comptroller. State comptroller kind of put a big message out of really slowing down or stopping borrowing, bonding, however we want to put it, by the county because of concerns around the budget. That's been presented. It was not approved by the comptroller, which is required by law. So I want to segue into the financial state of the county, but also the jail and the questions of a new jail or rebuilding a jail or doing something about the jail, where does that fit in this conversation?
Yeah, that's been really a strong focal point. I would say my colleague Commissioner Mills has really led on the issue of a new jail, but we've been putting millions of dollars into maintenance needs at the existing jail at 201 Poplar. Millington came to our rescue here recently. We had a resolution where we authorized Millington to free up some of their space to handle some of the surge. But this is something that we need to be focused on the solutions. And I think a lot of times, unfortunately, we get bogged down in where we don't want a jail or what the solution shouldn't be, instead of working collaboratively toward fixing this problem.
Let me bring Commissioner Caswell. I'll come to you, Commissioner Mills. Your thoughts on the jail and thoughts on the financial situation of the bond of the state saying no more borrowing. That affects schools. It affects Regional 1. It affects a whole lot of things.
Yeah, I think so. First, I say the jail is that toured it 2-3 times since I've been on this body, and I said it even on record. I wouldn't want to put a dog in some of that space that's inside of that jail. The food that they eat, just the deterrent of that space. We need a new jail. We need to address that in a way, though. I don't know how we get there. We need to, again, be intentional to understand. You said it a minute ago, many of these folks have not been convicted of crime, but it's like they're being treated like prisoners when they just in a process of going through until they trial they come. So we need to address that. When it comes to the comptroller, I think right now it's like jail is not even on the table when you talk about what's going to go in our budget. That we're focusing on the schools and things. I think that just understanding from that letter is some things we have to address from the comptroller standpoint. But I don't believe we're in a bad place. We just need to correct those things that the comptrollers addressed in that level.
And Commissioner Mills, now say we have 5 minutes left here in Chuck. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, as far as the jail, it needs to be funded. That's why we had on our legislative agenda, and I went to Nashville every week, multiple times a week, to try to advocate to get a funding source, not necessarily the state, but a referendum item for the taxpayers to decide how we're going to fund this jail, because it's going to have to be funded, and what we don't want is the federal government to come in, now you have to build it. Well, now you're going to have a 74-cent property tax increase, and we're already the highest taxed property tax in the state. So it passed in the state Senate. Senator Atbury carried it, and then Gillespie carried it in the House, and a fellow Republican killed it in the House, and I'm just shocked to this day. Why would you take options off the table, especially with the state's given so much? They're paying for the forensic audit for the schools. Why would you not give the citizens an opportunity to handle it ourselves?
Bill.
Do you think there's been an evolution of where the commission, as 13 individuals, are on the jail because of the conditions, because of the nightmare that intake at the jail can be?
I do. I don't think you can walk through there and say we don't need a new jail. You can talk about process all day, but when you have the detainees locking themselves in their jail because of all and you don't necessarily have to sneak weapons in because it's crumbling. I think once you see it, you can't say we don't need to address this.
Yeah.
Just a couple minutes here, and again, we can talk much more about the jail, and we will be talking more about the jail and the budget situation. But I want to talk about schools real quickly. This last week, you as a board, as a commission, voted to change. This is wonky, so I'm going to make sure I get it right here. You passed a resolution that would have cut 5 of the school board members' 4-year terms in half. It would have this was enabled by a change in state law last year. It would sync up all the school board elections. It's at least related to an effort by the state, particularly Brent Taylor and Mark White, to put a board of managers above the Memphis Shelby County School Board, essentially a takeover, as Brent Taylor called it. Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris vetoed that vote by the county commission. Did you agree with that? Will you bring it back up for a revote to try to sync up those votes and shorten the terms?
Override the veto.
Override the veto. Thank you, Bill. And try to sync up the terms. I'll start with you, Mick Wright, because you're right next to me.
Sure. Yeah, I'm very opposed to the veto. We really need some more accountability for the schools. The schools was a major issue going back to what the comptroller had to say. The schools budget was deficient, and that was what dinged us this year and possibly prevents us from investing in more school construction. So that's a serious issue. We need more accountability in the school district, and we really need to empower the voters to do that.
Amber Mills?
I was disappointed to see him veto the resolution, though not surprised. The schools affects, I mean, if you have a good school system, people are going to want to move in. If you don't have a good school system, people are going to look elsewhere to move. So I think this needs to be addressed for multiple reasons, but also to align up with just have one big ballot. Even the General Sessions Court clerk said, and while you're at it, you need to add this election on there too, instead of having it off on by itself where nobody's paying attention.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. I didn't support that item, and I won't support it if it comes back. I support it in a way that unconstitutionally, I think we took away people voting rights. So I'm talking about in my district right now, my commissioner ran last year, constituents in my district support her. When I go down my email, go down my phone call, they didn't call and say, we want her out of there. And so if I'm going back and running next year, she's going to be on the ballot. You think they're going to want to support somebody who went against their vote just a year and a half ago, to put somebody in office who fought to get a new school in their community, who fight for children in their community? So I say to this, I think it's unconstitutional to take people voting right away. When they voted for 4 years. They should get their 4 years, and then they change it then.
We're talking largely about the federal law enforcement presence. The Guard is in some form or fashion here as we tape Thursday morning, but certainly there have been 700 to as many as almost 900 U.S. Marshals, ATF, Bureau of Tobacco and Firearms, FBI, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and a surge of what seems to be more Tennessee Highway Patrol people, officers. We've been covering more, minute to minute on the Daily Memphian. You can get the updates there. But for now, I want to bring in Amber Mills, Shelby County Commissioner. Your thoughts on this surge of forces and what you like about it and what you don't want to see from it.
Okay. I am thrilled and so grateful to have them here to help us with our crime issue. And what I want to see is our law enforcement have the resources that they've been lacking and the support to get the criminals off the street. What I don't want to see is us not take advantage moving forward of these resources. I want to see it continue, and I want to see the quality of life that we are getting a glimmer of seeing right now changing. I want to see us carry it on.
Charlie Caswell, County Commissioner, Raleigh, Nutbush, parts of Fraser.
Yes, sir.
Your take on this federal surge?
Again, I'm thankful for the alphabets, the FBI, TBI, Tennessee Highway Patrol, that is working in collaboration with our Memphis Police Department, Sheriff Department right now. We're seeing some impact, and serving one of the worst police precincts of violent crime in our community. We most definitely want to have a better quality of life for all citizens there. There's still questions about what it looks like with the National Guard here, if they're helping to allow these individuals to continue to focus on the hot spots and bring down the crime in those communities. I support it all day, and I'm sure many people in my community support it. They just want to feel safe when they do see these officers in their community and not being treated in a way that it was portrayed that they would be treated in a hostile way. I haven't heard that right now, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. And Mick Wright, County Commissioner covering District 3, Bartlett, Lakeland. Your take on this? And you also, by day, you're not just County Commissioner, you work at youth villages, you work with Memphis Allies, a violence intervention group. So your take on this?
Yeah, this has been the number one issue for us for the last, I'd say at least the last 3 years, where we've seen a really heightened increase in violent crime, and to the point where Memphis and Shelby County was leading the country as far as the homicide rate. And so we've been wanting to see action. We've been wanting to see something different. And you listen to what the city council says. They talk a lot about the repeat offenders and wanting to get them off the street. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do that roundup, to get the most violent people in our community out of the way, and so that we can have safe streets, safe communities.
In other cities where there have been these kinds of surge of law enforcement and Guard, and they really, in some ways, they're related, but they're a bit separate, right? I mean, the alphabet soup that Commissioner Caswell talked about of federal agencies have worked on gang interventions, all kinds of task force, drug issues for many decades. That part isn't new, although the volume of them is new. In other cities, and I think it's particularly, I'll go to you, Commissioner Mills, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that's where most of the criticism, if there has been criticism in other cities, I think has been focused on that, of the masked people, of people who are legal residents, legal citizens, being pulled in, being detained, the helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopter with people rappelling down in Chicago and children being zip tied. I mean, I assume you don't want to see that kind of stuff here in Memphis?
No, I mean, I want to see them get the criminal, illegal people that decided to break our laws to come here. I think it's a disservice to the people who came here the right way and who are productive citizens. So, no, I want to see them do their job, and like I said, I think they know they're under a microscope, so I don't see them going off the wall. Yeah. Where they shouldn't be.
And back to you, Commissioner Caswell, the one Democrat here. This is the mix just of who we could get on the show right now. We'll give you some more time on the things that would be real red flags for you that you and your constituents would get very concerned very quickly about.
I serve Paul's and Nutbush. That's highly Hispanic community, Latino community, and I know there is fear there because they have been there for many years, and now to see this surge. But ICE was already on the ground before this all happened, right? They was already going in, taking those out who are illegal. My hope is that they do focus in on those violent immigrants and those who do not belong here. Continue to be intentional. Target those, get them out of our community, and I'm sure the community can be acceptable to that. They don't want to continue to see gang violence, gun violence, drug dealing in their communities, and I'm sure as a community we want to see that.
We are out of time. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Bill. But we are out of time. If you missed any of the show today, you can get the full episode online at WKNO.org, YouTube, or the Daily Memphian. You can also download the full podcast of the show. Next week, we've got City Mayor Paul Young. Can't imagine what we'll talk about, but we'll try to find something. Also, a look at Millington and I'm sure other shows about these issues that we talked about today. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.